National Guardsmen, attention, National Guardsmen, return to your barracks. That's what the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has said. That's what the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals has said. In particular, we're fighting for the soul of our constitutional republic and our way of life and our federalism in the courts of America, in Illinois, in Oregon, in the Seventh Circuit, in the Ninth Circuit. And we got some new rulings coming out of Illinois. Yeah, they'll be appealed. Yes, there'll be an ultimate decision made, but they are important. Judge Ellis and Judge Perry's decisions in Illinois are important. They're trying to save the soul of America. We are too, with your help here on MeidasTouch and Legal AF YouTube channels. And here's a clip from the Legal AF Legal AF podcast that I did with Ben Meiselas. Let's play the analysis.
Let's talk about what's going on in federal courts across the country now as they have to respond to Donald Trump's invasion of blue states and blue cities, and not just using the National Guard within said state to invade said state, but now using the National Guards of other states to invade other states. So in Illinois, we know that Donald Trump activated the Texas National Guard to invade Chicago, Illinois, a red state's army invading a blue state, blue city. Remember all of the "don't tread on me" crowd, the states' rights people. I kind of think that there's a word or a phrase when a certain part of the country invades another part of the country that's just trying to exist and live peaceful, thriving lives. Now, one of the things I want to just mention here before tossing it over to you, Popak, talking about Judge Emmergut, the Trump-appointed judge who didn't just issue one, but two injunctions, restraining orders against the Trump regime because Trump violated her first order, and she kept on saying to the Trump lawyer in the DOJ, you do realize that you're an officer of the court. You do realize you have a legal license. You do realize you are in a courtroom right now. I just want you are aware of that. I think setting the predicate for perhaps future actions being taken there. And I think a lot of these DOJ lawyers are making themselves very susceptible to issues regarding their licenses. I'll just leave it at that. So Emmergut, then Judge Perry in federal court in Illinois. But before even getting there, though, Popak, I just think it's important to reflect on the fact that, you look at a state like a California or these blue states in general, overwhelmingly, they are the states that are the donor states. For example, just take California. Would have the fourth largest GDP in the world if it was a country. Fourth largest GDP in the world if it was a country. It's literally subsidizing the existence of the red states. The red states, by and large, operate like Argentina's Javier Milei or Viktor Orban's Hungary. They're like bankrupted countries that are existing because of subsidies provided by blue states. I mean, that's one of the things that is not lost on me when we have these legal discussions. So California gives $85 billion to the federal government more than it takes, whereas a red state like Texas takes $75 billion more than it gives. Just want you to think about that when we have these conversations. And then still in Texas, the children who died in the flash floods there have not been, some children have not been found. They have all these issues with their electorate, and they're spending their time sending troops to invade blue states and blue cities as their governor is mocking the physical appearance of the governor of Illinois, saying you should do more push-ups. The governor of Texas is Michael Popak. Break it down for us.
I will. By the way, they're rebuilding that Christian girls camp on the site of that. There's something about depraved and immoral. They're rebuilding a Christian girls camp back on the site where dozens died, and they haven't found the bodies of some of them yet, but they're trying to reopen for the next summer season. It's really, you see the attacks on moderates and fair-minded people, but look what they actually do when nobody's looking. You have this all coming to a head, and it's on a rapid track to the United States Supreme Court about Donald Trump commandeering and mobilizing the state militia, what we call the National Guard, in 3 different places. And I think we're heading for a split decision between 2 different appellate courts. one in your neck of the woods and one in Illinois. It started off last Saturday and Sunday with rulings by Judge Immergut in the Portland, Oregon, who took a look outside her window and said, I don't see a rebellion. I don't see domestic violence. I see 50 people, 20 people in chicken suits. I mean, this is my paraphrase. And I'm not going to accept the facts as alleged by the Trump administration as justification under a statute that he has to comply with called 12406 about taking over and commandeering the National Guard. Now, let me just step back for a minute. Whether it's Chicago or it's Portland or it's DC, this is not about Donald Trump. There's two worlds going on here. There's the political world of Stephen Miller and Donald Trump and Kristi Noem and all the cosplay going on there, which is we're, as his poll numbers sink like down to the 30s, we're tough. We're going to crush Democratic dissent. Okay, which we're gonna define as disloyalty. We're going to crush Antifa, meaning Democrats. We're going to call Democrats a terrorist organization, and we're going to crush free speech because we've got all the power. And to paraphrase Stephen Miller, what do they have? Hopefully, the Constitution and the law, as Judge Young said in Massachusetts recently in his decision. All I've got is the majesty of the Constitution. The reality is none of that is happening. They're just spending and wasting $1 billion or more of taxpayer dollars to do a cosplay show of force where they end up shoving the National Guard into vans overnight and having them sleep outside of ICE facilities when they have nothing to do because there's nothing to do. They go out and do these cosplay show of forces through parks and through neighborhoods, or rappel down from helicopters in Section 8 housing areas just to show, the black op helicopters are here, or they pick up litter. What they're not doing, other than standing in front of federal buildings that don't need their help, is doing anything that the Trump side is telling MAGA that they are doing. And the federal judges know it. The federal judges are like, look, I'm not going to give you deference on facts because I don't trust, as Judge Perry just said in her most recent order in Chicago, I don't trust a word that is being filed under sworn testimony by the Trump administration. I find it to be not credible about the justification for sending in the troops or mobilizing the troops. So Judge Immergut cited to the founding fathers and the framers. Judge Perry cited to it in Illinois yesterday. And what they're saying is this: the bedrock for our entire constitutional republic and our system of federalism presupposes that the federal president will never use a standing army against the states, violate their sovereignty, and take away the people's rights. It's the reason we left England. It's in the Declaration of Independence. The roving bands of standing army of King George is one of the major impetuses for the colonials to fight back and win independence. So with whether you cite to Alexander Hamilton in the Federalist Papers, or you cite to the Constitution or different things, there's a delicate balance that keeps, as Judge Immergut put it, an overgrown president from using a standing army, in this case the militia or the military, against the American people, which is the road to tyranny. Actually, you've already arrived at tyranny at that point. So you've got the Judge Immerguts of the world, a Trump appointee, Judge Perry, who's a Biden appointee, and 2 days before her, Judge Ellis in Illinois, all coming together and saying, you can't crush First Amendment expression. You can't use the mighty weight of the lethality of the military against against journalists and against religious figures, clergymen, and other First Amendment protesters on the streets of Illinois or anywhere else effectively. And Judge Perry, going one further, and doing, in her opinion, about how this country was founded, citing back to Alexander Hamilton and saying state sovereignty and protecting against the tyrannical instincts of an out-of-control president is at the base of our constitutional system. And no, you can't, based on the facts that you've alleged that I don't even believe, because I can see the counterfacts for myself and as presented by the Chicago and Illinois, I'm not going to let you commandeer the National Guard or send in troops from other states into Illinois or anywhere else. In the meantime, the Ninth Circuit, which is over California and Oregon, wasn't a great hearing. I mean, we don't blow smoke or sunshine on legal AF. Two Trumpers, because that Ninth Circuit, unfortunately, is becoming more. 1/3 of the judges on there are now Trump appointees from the first term. And then when they get them together, and if in two or more, bad things happen. And they were very fiery, hot bench against the advocate for Oregon, and basically saying we have to believe everything the president says. We have to believe him on the facts. 200 protesters sounds like a lot. And we need to, just because some of this stuff happened a year ago or 8 months ago doesn't mean that he's precluded from bringing in the National Guard now. That's going to be a bad ruling coming out of the Ninth Circuit, consistent with a ruling that we didn't love about Gavin Newsom and the use of troops in California. So we got two bad rulings against our constitutional republic coming out of the Ninth Circuit of all places. Then the Sixth Circuit is going to have an emergency appeal related to these two new orders by Judge Perry and Judge Ellis about the National Guard's use. And so if the Sixth Circuit says, yeah, this is an out-of-control, overgrown president that's violating the basic foundational precepts of our constitutional republic, and the Ninth Circuit says something different, we're going to be up to the United States Supreme Court on an emergency application very, very soon, likely, I would think, sometime in early November. And then what do you think happens from there, Ben?
I think you'll have a full briefing. I think it won't be decided until 2026. I mean, I think but ultimately, who knows what this right wing.
Do they block the order and let the Illinois troops let Trump take over Illinois troops in the meantime?
Probably. What they seem to have been doing on all of these cases is procedurally staying the district court's order pending, except in the rare exception of Lisa Cook from the Board of Governors. What they seem to have been doing is staying what the district court does, allowing the status quo as Trump defines the status quo to take place, and then ultimately hearing oral arguments, although I think they'll take it on an expedited basis. But that seems to be, unfortunately, what they do every single time. Ultimately, when they hear the matter on the merits, what'll be interesting is that there's been a different factual analysis, right? And what the federal judges in Oregon and Illinois stressed that I think was a little bit different from the factual record before the California Court of Appeals, perhaps is what are you talking like? Those judges made a painstaking effort to describe what was actually happening on the ground in ways that I don't think was developed simply because California went first and this was uncharted legal territory. So I think California went in with this view of, isn't this obvious that this statute can't possibly apply? This isn't like an insurrection or a rebellion, or obviously the president's not unable to otherwise effectuate the laws. But then it seems that it's like, all right, I guess we're going to have to give more information and more data about why this should be handled by law enforcement. And I think if California had the opportunity to do it again, I think they would have briefed it a little bit differently. But I think they've learned from that briefing, and California did a great job, I think, in the briefing with Oregon over the use of the California troops in Oregon. But again, just you pull back, we're talking about the president of the United States using National Guards from other states to invade areas. And, on the MeidasTouch network, almost every day I do a video. I call it my All Hell Breaks Loose series, where we talk about And I show the videos and the photos of what's going down on our streets with these ICE agents who are holding assault rifles and weapons of war out their windows and invading American cities. So, Donald Trump wants to brag that he should get a Nobel Peace Prize, but dude is invading American cities. He's declared war within America to try to topple our democracy.
Welcome back. We sit at the intersection of law and politics so you don't have to. That show's 5 years in the making. If you didn't know why we call it Legal AF, well, now you do. And if you want the full-length podcast, which I hope you do, Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the MeidasTouch Network, and commercial-free versions on Legal AF Substack. Want to be supportive? Want to help with our audio? We could use a little love over there, little hummingbird effect. Listen to the audio version on Spotify and Google. Just plug in Legal AF. You'll find us there. We have over, like 3,000-4,000 reviews. We average about 4.9. It's all because of you. Help us continue to grow our audio base, video base. You're here on the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the free subscribe. You're here on Legal AF YouTube. Hit the free subscribe. And if you want to put the cherry on the top and get your Legal AF membership card, if you will, come over to Legal AF Substack and consider becoming a paid member. So until my next Legal AF podcast, this is Michael Popak reporting. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.